was presented, okay? The way Serrata was presented, man, is very secretive,
Right.
okay? Manong Angel said there's no secrets. The secrets is in the basics, so that means there's secrets, right? Okay, and when we're working out in Serrata, Manong Angel doesn't say, all right, everybody work your technique this, technique that, you right? You know, he doesn't do that. He says work your basics, yeah, 1 to 12, numbering 1 to 12, and the set defense, right? Okay, so footwork, and body mechanics, and the foundational combinations.
So each individual develops their own mechanics through
Pretty
the
much,
basics.
yeah. Well, there's a guidance though. There's a
Okay.
guidance, and then so what happened is this. It was two-phase. You know, I've talked about this several times, but I'll make it short, okay? So, but
No, don't make it short. I want to hear it.
okay,
He wants to-
yeah, there's two phases here.
Why you keep
Yeah.
stop doing these short
Okay,
stories? I
okay,
want to
no
hear
short
it all.
stories. No, yeah.
That's
Give
what
us
we're
the gritty
here.
details.
All right, good. Yeah, I'll add some nuances in there. Yeah, it'll be great. Yeah, for the sake of my license.
Don't worry about time.
Yeah, that's right. Anyway, I have the license to be creative here.
there you
Okay,
go.
yeah. So
Creative
anyway,
license.
so anyway, so when developing into the Serrata system, you know, it's a long process. Okay, it's a long process, and then so. But what happened was, back in the mid '80s when I started having my leg problems, my doctor sat me down. He says, "Hey, we're going to be honest with you. We're going to try everything we can, and but there's a strong possibility that you might have to get your leg amputated."
Right.
So it wasn't just the battle of time; it was the battle of knowing where it would lead to.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. And so anyway,
Wow.
so I told this to Manong Angel, man. I was just telling him this, what the doctor said, and I broke down. Good thing it was just me and him. It's worse.
You and him and everybody watching this video.
Yeah. I've grown up since though. So I don't
Okay.
mind.
So you're good.
Yeah,
You're good.
yeah.
You cried. You cried.
Yeah, man, I cried, man. Ooh, man, I cried. So anyway, I broke down, man, and he said, "Oh no, actually, I got to tell this story backwards. But let's do it. So we're already
right.
committed here." So anyway, he told me. He said, "Well, because I told him I don't know how I'm going to be able to participate.
Yeah, continue.
You know, after they take my leg." And he says, "Oh, we'll make you a teacher. I will teach you how to teach, and then so I'll break down the system for you and show you how to do it.
Wow.
Each level,
Wow.
How long did that take? Because that kind of been.
that until he passed away.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wait,
So
what
that,
year
that
did he
means
pass away?
I mean, he passed away in 1991, March
Yeah.
3.
So
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. So and what happened was when I'm in class, he would even before class we would talk about the lessons, right? And then he would tell me to take one of the young guys and go over. This is how you teach him.
Practice teaching.
Yeah. The short guy you teach him. The long guy, the tall guy you teach him this. The quick guy you teach him this. So he
Wow,
started.
he really broke it
Yeah.
down.
broke
Yeah.
it
So the
down.
lesson changed for each individual body
yeah.
type. Wow.
And so, but the basics continued. It was the same.
Right.
It was the application part that
Right.
changed, and then so, and then having, so now I'm taking these classes from Manong Angel, and at his house, and even before this, what happened was when I graduated, and I graduated from his school in 1983. I started in 1979. I graduated from his school in 1983 with an advanced degree. And so he said, and he's looking at me and he says, "You block everything, you know how to evade, but your balance is terrible." I said,
Well, damn, I'm missing a leg.
I know.
Hey,
Wasn't
come
there
on.
yet, but he still had paralysis in his
I
legs.
have a crutch.
So he said, "Okay, you come to my house," And so
Wow.
he says, Ron Saturno comes in at let me see, You know, Saturno comes in at 9:30 or 9 o'clock. I can't remember. And then so we'll finish by 10. You come in at 10:30. So I came in at 10:30, and then
So you trained right after Ryan Santoro?
yeah, right after Ron Saturno. And so same living room. You know, you walk
Right.
in, and the hallway we trained right there. And then and then his son Johnny Cabalas, God rest his soul, God bless his soul. But he passed away recently. His room was right there, and I would go over there and we would train, man.
In the hallway.
In the hallway. Yeah. So, but before that, we would eat. Yeah.
It's around the lunchtime for him.
Yeah. So we would
That's
eat, and
crazy.
then we would train, and then so what happened is this. So between that, because he wanted to develop my balance, and he did, and the unique way of developing my balance was something else. He wouldn't let me move. Right lead only, and
Hold
we
your
have
ground.
this footwork that go.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, we've
Okay?
seen him
Yeah, we have
demonstrate
that
that, yeah.
footwork, you know, and it's for timing, you know, and then that's for the timing for exit, timing for blocking, you know, and slipping, and so I didn't know how to do that, and he would not let me move. Right foot lead only.
Don't move.
And then so we would do drills. We would do a lock and block. We do the Cerrada Contra, the closing drill, and then we would do flow sparring, picking. You know, we do all these drills, and I'm not allowed to move.
You're
Right?
also in the hallway. Where
Yeah,
could you
yeah.
move?
And, you know, so I can only, you know, right foot lead. I
Right.
parry everything here. I don't do the left foot lead to parry. You know, and it just got to a point, man, that it was just, you know, this was like several weeks of training. Then it got to a point that, you know, without even thinking about it, my legs started moving, and it was. And my, because standing still, I had perfect balance now.
Right.
He couldn't budge me. Next thing you know, my legs started moving, and I'm tapping my feet, man.
Just enough to keep your balance.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so boom, that was it.
So I heard a crazy story that made me laugh like crazy.
Okay.
Grandmaster Hiron,
Yes.
we're at one of his Thirsty for Thursdays.
Oh.
He's telling a story. He says, yeah, me and Carlito, we were teaching this one guy, you know, a young kid, we were teaching him, and Carlito says, here, let me show you something. You'd show him a technique. And then Hiron would say, here, I got something. So he shows him a hand technique. And you guys are going back and forth, and finally Hiron says, there, I'm going to show you something he can't show you. And you go, what's that? Footwork. What kind of... That was the funniest. I was like, oh my god.
Because you just imagine, he has one of those faces. It looks serious all
And
the
he's
time.
so
I
serious when
imagine
he's
him-
telling the story. He goes,
That's a true story.
That's a true story.
Yeah,
Oh my god.
Yeah.
So what's your side of that story? Because that
Yeah.
has always been funny. to me.
Well, you know, I let him think that I don't know how to do it.
There's the joke. There's the joke.
That's
too funny.
Yeah, you know, so I teach footwork. I just don't teach in the regular manner that everyone else can.
Right.
Yeah. So, in other words, I direct footwork. Most students, you know, they look at the master, the way they look,
Yeah.
they move, and then because they can see, right?
Right.
They emulate them, you know, and then they can't do that with me.
And that sometimes
Yeah.
is a hindrance when you try to emulate what your master's doing.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you're a perfect example of not being able to do something or
Yeah.
doing something differently because
Yeah.
of the adjustments you have to make. So then the student tries to copy those adjustments, but they don't work for their
They
body
don't work
type.
with it. Yeah.
So then they can't get past a certain
So
point.
what I do is I direct them, you know, I direct the footwork.
You know, that seems like a better way of teaching certain things.
Well, you know, and I've had a lot of injuries where, because of the injuries, I had to adapt.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I can't do certain things, so I had to change what I had to do to get the same result.
Yeah.
And I can see, and that's why we're really curious about you.
Right.
In that, once you got in that wheelchair, how much did it change?
He said it
Yeah,
free him
well,
up.
Yeah, so
Yeah, I mean, if
in
it's a
certain-
job, I mean, it's
like
something
if
you have
I'm
to
on a good
change.
floor, like
Yeah.
you know, like the floor out there,
Right.
cement floor or lightly, you know, covered floor.
Folks, that's a
I
good
can-
floor, a cement floor.
Yeah, so
For training.
I can maneuver pretty well, you know, and then so. And it depends. Sometimes I'll get lucky. I'll get a floor that's not quite even, so I know I'm going to use that side to advance.
Wow,
you
you
know?
go to
yeah,
that
yeah,
degree?
yeah,
Really?
yeah. Without moving my chair.
Because I've
using
seen
my
you
hands.
do demonstrations
Yeah.
where even when you do your angle one or your outside block, your movements themselves move your wheelchair forward
Yeah,
or
yeah,
back
yeah, I
as you
learned how
need
to do
it.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I learned how to
dude,
do
that's
that.
incredible. I mean,
Yeah,
the core strength.
Before we got here, we he had mentioned that, Carlito knocked me on my ass a few times when we were doing the demos at one of the gatherings. That guy's strong. Just don't let him fool you.
Yeah. So and then I learned to use my core.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah,
you know?
and the training you were just talking about
Yeah,
that
yeah.
Angel had you do, that
Yeah.
really developed, not being able to move at all, but still having to twist
Yeah.
and turn
Yeah,
and
yeah.
get all your angles right.
Yeah, and it just, I think it was just, I don't know if I planned it that way. It was just, it happened, it just,
Right.
it happened. And I say that my training allowed me to do that because I know how to figure things out.
Yeah, you
now,
said you
within,
had good
within
instructors.
reason, because I can't do everything.
Right.
There's things I just can't do, and so if I can't do them and I need somebody to show how to do it, then I'll use one of my students.
So, and that brings an interesting point. Because of the things that you couldn't do, you had to make up for it somehow.
Yeah.
I mean, what were you
Make
saying?
up the
Yeah,
limitations.
so here, let's put it this way. I teach a lot of things. I can pretty much teach everything that I need to my students, okay? If I have the time to do it, okay? Whether it's a strategy, footwork, whatever, right? Okay? But there's only things that I can do for myself.
Right.
So, and those things I kind of keep private, because it wouldn't apply to anyone else. I just don't want anyone to know what I have to do when I gotta do 'em.
Well, and that's
So-
something that
Yeah.
we bring up every so often.
Yeah.
Is that he goes, for him to move like me, he's going to have to get all kinds of broken
Injuries.
shoulders. Yeah, injuries, so that he has to adapt the way
Right.
that I do things. Because you can't, just like you. For me to move like you do, I'd have to have a wheelchair.
Yeah.
It means I'd have to lose my legs, and so that I can understand why you move the way you move.
Yeah.
And without that, it's hard to mimic or emulate anybody because of the way they were having to move because of their physical injury.
Yeah.
Right, which is why then understanding becomes even more important. Like you say, you direct and get the student to understand what they should be doing
Yeah.
and not copying what they see
Yeah,
the
sometimes.
instructor doing.
Yeah, sometimes when I'm doing a seminar, I get invited to a school. Somebody will come in a wheelchair, and they've been working with their teacher. Their teachers, will do things like sit on a chair. And,
Right.
And then some teachers sit on a wheelchair and work with their students. And
wow.
but I'm in my chair all the time, so I can see. It's like, oh, hey, try this.
Right.
So you can
And,
direct them
yeah,
individually.
try this.
Yeah,
Because hey, this is my area. I'm here all the time.
Yeah.
I just wish I had more students in a wheelchair. It'd be easier to teach.
You can see everybody eye to eye.
These walking guys, it's too hard to teach you guys walking.
Right.
So anyway, but I see some teachers try, man, that they really
And that's
make an
commendable.
effort.
That's
Yeah, it's very,
Make an
very
effort.
commendable.
Yeah.
That's nice. I mean,
Yeah.
you do sometimes have to figure out what your student needs
Yeah.
and then try to incorporate it to whatever you're showing them.
Yeah.
Even if it takes you out of your own curriculum. I
Yeah.
guess, right?
Yeah. And it's the first I'll give you an example of some of the challenges, right? Okay. The first time I taught the gathering was in the year 2000, and it was in San Diego. And I've been to a couple of them, but as a guest. As a guest of someone, and not to teach. And so this year I'm teaching, and the first segment was on empty hands, man, right?
Right.
And so, so good thing I brought my bar stool. So I sat on a bar stool to teach this
Yeah,
empty
just a
hand,
little higher.
the close range stuff, and it worked.
That's crazy.
Yeah, because I couldn't do it, on my
From the chair.
Right.
crutches, on my crutches at that time.
Because lifting your
So,
shoulders
yeah,
up then.
so I brought, so my bar stool. But now that I have a wheelchair, it's designed a little bit higher than most wheelchairs.
I noticed that actually.
Yeah.
I was looking, I was like,
Yeah.
you're sitting a lot
Yeah.
higher than we are.
Yeah,
we look really
it's-
short compared
Dude,
to
I'm
him.
feeling like a midget.
Yeah. It's customized. It's customized. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah, so-
Wow.
Yeah, so the way we measured it, I told them, I said, I need it to go as high as I can.
Right.
So they gave me bigger rims, and I need it narrow so I can get indoors. And I said, I want it to be a street chair that moves like a athletic chair.
Right, which usually
Yeah.
lower and
Yeah.
sprawled a little bit.
And
Yeah.
then that's what they put together. That's what they that's what I got, man.
You know, I never
Yeah.
even really tripped off that because my
Yeah.
brother-in-law, he's in a wheelchair, and,
Yeah.
there are very noticeable differences.
Yeah, so we're talking, and he said, he said, sir, what are you gonna use? I mean, you asking for very specific things.
Right.
Why? And I told him, I said, well, I teach martial arts, and I wanna be taller because
Right.
people are standing up, and I do demonstrations, and then so I just feel that I need to be taller, and so he said, okay, right. So we settled. My wheelchair is gonna be a little over $2,000, right? Okay? And because that's what I could afford.
Mhm.
Okay. Calls me up the next day, and he says, "Mr. Bonjoc." I said, "Yes." This so and so. I said, "Oh, hey, what's up, buddy?" He says, "Hey, listen. We looked you up on YouTube." He said, "We Googled you, sir." He said, "We Googled you."
That's awesome.
And we had a meeting, and we decided to give you this other chair. And then what model number? I looked it up in the catalog, man. I said, man, that's a $4,000 chair. I can't
Right.
afford that. He says, oh well, we'll take what you already gave us, and we'll just sponsor you the rest.
Wow.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. So
Hey,
yeah,
thank you, Google.
so that was interesting. Yeah.
That's
That's
awesome.
awesome. That's
Yeah.
really cool. But I want to get to something because we earlier on you said something about the frustration that your father felt when he was teaching you. What about your frustration being trained by your father?
The only frustration it was that he would end up yelling at me. Right?
That's
So
like
you were
me.
getting scolded.
That's like when you have to teach your wife how to drive. You just start
Oh,
getting
yeah,
in a
yeah,
fight. You're
yeah.
like,
You know what, man? To this day, I don't teach my cousins.
yeah, you can't.
Really?
My
family
student
is
teaches
hard.
my cousin.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's hard to teach
Yeah.
family.
I don't want to
Yeah,
lose
yeah.
my family.
Yeah, his
Right.
wife said
Yeah.
no. I should
Yeah.
teach her. No.
Yeah.
Same, yeah.
Yeah. So but I wanted it so much, man, that I was willing to take my dad's because
No, but what was the reason you wanted it? What? Because I remember you saying you were bullied a lot when you were younger.
Yeah, but even before that, even before I was
Really?
bullied in the Philippines, I was asking my father if I could train.
And he said no for many
And darn
years.
it, they just felt that I was a hothead, man.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Oh,
That's fine.
that's
I get
what.
it.
Yeah, see,
Yeah,
that,
we're very
what was
selective
the
with
reason?
students when they come to-
when you have the
Yeah.
two things,
Yeah.
that's me.
Yeah.
I might have three. yeah.
It's
yeah.
sensible.
You know?
And I agree with him then, if that was the case, because we get guys coming into our gym and say, hey, will you teach me? I want to learn how to get out of handcuffs while the police are putting it on me.
yeah.
Like, dude, get
Yeah.
out of here.
Yeah.
You can't teach these crazy people.
Dude, when I was like late. I was already in where was I? I was already in junior college, man. I went to a party, and I got in a fight with this guy, and so I thought he was done, right?
Mm-hmm.
The police is looking for me,
Oh,
and then
the retaliation came from the
yeah,
cops.
and then so, and then that guy went to the police and said he was my father, right? You know?
Really?
Yeah. And then so anyway, but before that, my father was like, oh, my dad was mad.
Yeah, aren't they
It's
always?
like, what the heck did
Why
you
are you
do?
getting into these things? Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was because I lost my temper, man.
Oh, wow.
I really got lucky. You talk about luck. You prepare,
Yeah.
and so hopefully when the luck comes through, you can do it.
Right.
And that's exactly what happened. He should have kicked my butt, and there was just one little window of opportunity,
took it.
and I took it, but I didn't stop.
Right. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, you were like, oh, I got the upper hand.
Yeah. So I didn't stop, and
Bully.
Yeah, but we talked it out afterwards. I saw him at a different party, and we talked it out. And he's a good guy, man. I still keep in touch with him.
That's cool.
Yeah. But I mean, I
You
touched,
beat
like-
him up and become his friend afterwards.
Yeah.
But then, Filipino martials are always like that. I mean, you fight and then okay, cool, we're friends now.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
I mean, that, especially back in the day.
Yeah, back in the day.
Yeah, these days, no, they don't.
That's
That
different.
doesn't work anymore.
No retaliation, friends.
Yeah.
But how did training switch your mindset? 'Cause you said you were a hothead, and it took you a while to realize that you were a hothead.
Yeah.
But how did the training kind of take you away from that? Because you seem like a really mild mannered individual right
Yeah.
now.